Hello there everyone, welcome back. We got ourselves an our town match and I'm kind of hoping, really hoping this will be a little more entertaining than the first one. Cause I'm not gonna lie, with how easy it was to get the torpedo hits on my last town opponent, that was pretty one-sided. And it goes to show just how fragile and vulnerable Tau are when they don't have the defensive fighters up, cause really, that's their main defense, unless you want a high energy turn and kind of like dodge the torpedoes, which to an extent you can kind of do because they are a lot more flatter. Well, basically they're the same kind of width as like the prow of my Imperial Navy ship, so if they were to kind of do a hard 90-degree turn, they could dodge a lot of the torpedoes that way, but it was not meant to be for the last match there, or the last town match anyway, so we're going to see if Kami P is going to be any better or not in that regard. And for the Space Station Assault, we do get to witness the Custodian this matchup here. Unlike before, where it was just a few Protectors and a lot of Sauces, and an interesting comp with the the Castellans and the 3 Sauces for the Space Station Assault. So, this will definitely be different without a doubt. We get to see the Custodian in action, but the main trick, again, as I hinted before with Tau, is the main defense of the Custodian is its fighters, so I feel like if he's ignoring that, then he's going to get shot down by the torpedoes relatively well. Although not as effectively as the Sauces were, because the Custodian also does have like a built-in messenger in the ship itself. And what I mean by that, if you don't play Tau for whatever reason, is that within 6,000 units of the Custodian, all ships are able to re-roll their attempts to shoot down fighters and torpedoes. And with a battleship having 18 points defense, that's a lot of opportunities to hit my fighters, hit my torpedoes, and all that stuff. Never mind all the fighters that has on top of that. So, without a doubt, that's going to be a little bit more trickier to shoot down, especially if it's near the rest of his fleet, goddamn. And he doesn't have to afford a messenger, which is the 33-point frigate that does the exact same ability, but it's only 3,000 unit range. As I manage to deploy my Widowmakers as far forward as I can, the one on the right actually is able to hide in the gas cloud, just barely, so it is going to be able to spot for me. Not that the spine really does a whole lot, quite frankly, until he gets in close. And even then, I have the battle station to kind of help alleviate that fact some. So, we bar him out of the front door a little bit, at least attempt to anyway. And, actually, am I actually going to spread out the mines a bit? I guess I am going to spread out the mines a bit. Get a bit of a wider arc, I suppose. Because I guess what this does is that it allows me to focus all my torpedoes in between those mines, the gap there, and he's not able to just dodge it, if he even tries to dodge at all. So, we are starting here. As I said before, he does have a Custodian, so 3 of those markers, icons, are Wardens, his little frigates that go with them. And there's the Custodian right there. There's how it gives it away. High over in the gas cloud on the right, so I try and pinpoint where it is, because the fighters do give it away, and he also has a bastion, judging by those dumbfire torpedoes there. And interestingly enough, he also has Earth Cache favor on the railgun, so I don't know if that shooting the beacon was the best value, because I can immediately repair that off, and the beacon's not going to take any further damage for a long while, so I feel like that was an equal trade. I just repair away all the 90 points of damage the experimental railgun just did. So, we're firing the torpedoes there. He doesn't really have much opportunities for fighter defense aside for the Custodian itself, because that Sauce there cannot field fighters, and already the damage is being felt as 3 torpedoes get past the frigate wave, even with a messenger there, and just gets hammered to half health. Bastion's coming on in. It is quite fearsome in close, I'm not gonna lie. Those Demi-Air can be fearsome if you don't know how to deal with them, really how to deal with their damage output, because even with the mining laser not charged up, the rest of its firepower is still pretty formidable. And hell, did he seriously fly into a mine? That I did not see. Well, safe to say this is not a little bit of a concede, I guess, because he's just flying right into me. Torpedoes, I just need one of those torpedoes to hit the Sauce and take it out. Hell, we just now starting to get damage on the Demiurge, so it can do work at this kind of range, but it doesn't really have much in support at the moment. Because he is locking on, and I have supercharged voice shield to mitigate a lot of that, and I wait deliberately for that one salvo to do just that with the tyrant on the right. So now I turn my attention over to the stronghold, and here comes the most fearsome bomber wave. Thankfully, I have fighters with the battle station. I have fighters on the Dictator if they're still alive, so the good news is, I guess he did not have energy shields. Either way, the bombers were negated. The Mantis did absolutely nothing, and I'm trying to transfer my shields here, but for some reason it's being a little bit stubborn. So, there's the mine laser just practically being negated as it can't now get through my hull. So it's effectively just a subpar shield cutting laser at this point, even without much of a charge on it, because he actually had no asteroid belts to charge in, which can be one of the downsides of Demiurge. You need shipwreckages or actual asteroid belts to charge up that weapon, as I get pushed around ridiculously by that repulsor, the gravity wave projector. Custodian is at point blank range. This works well for me, especially with his shields down. I just kind of would like to be able to get on his side. As I try to go in for a ramming, it gets a little bit awkward because my tyrant, or overlord rather, is now stuck behind the Dictator. With the power ramps though, I'm probably still doing more damage to it than it is to me, quite frankly, if only slightly. Launching bombers, I'm making it the priority. I have the other overlord trying to get that Demiurge to be 30% health, because as a reminder, Demiurge immediately insubordinate at 30% health if the warp jump, well, I say this, but the warp jump's not even up, so maybe that was the wrong idea. That was probably the thought process though, but it's a little bit too early for that, as the constant ramming, a couple maybe lucky boarding hits because of how low the Custodian gets, and this is looking like a nice stomp there. The Dictator might live, but he does get one final micro warp jump out with the Custodian, and he warps it to try and get a final shot on this Dictator here. So the noble captain does the one thing he can. He charges right into the Custodian and takes it out with it. Definitely a different type of Tau match there, at least in comparison to the first one, but he did not launch his fighters, so even though with how aggressive he was playing, I still probably would have won that. It just would have took a lot longer, probably, to kill the Custodian at the very least. I definitely would have killed the Sauce, because even some of those torpedoes were getting past the Bastion and Messenger, so a couple of fighter waves from the Bastion wasn't going to do enough to save the Sauce, I think, from its torpedo onslaught. But the Custodian could have potentially lasted a lot longer until it got in point blank range, where its fighters would have just been shot down anyway for my bombers and any good torpedo shots I could have got on it. But not as exciting as I would like, I'm not gonna lie. We do get to see the Custodian action though. And now, for this second match, when I first went up to this match, quickly browsing through what the battle turned out, or how it turned out so I can remember all the details, I honestly could not remember how this went. I actually have it erased somehow from my memory, and I'm not sure why. Nonetheless, he's going with a cruiser clash. He's the defender, obviously. That's probably the smarter choice, because that way you have the option to stall out. It worked out well when I fought against Eldar, and I do take the Lance Dauntless, because I feel like it's at least the most practical for getting rid of the shields of the adaptive deflector Tau can utilize. I just lack the overcharge to make that better at shooting down shields. That's a bit of a problem there. And with him lacking his fighters, quite frankly, it may have been the wrong choice. Because I could have just switched that to a regular Dauntless with the torpedoes, and I probably would have better success that way, in retrospect. But the idea anyway with that Dauntless is to have its lance help take the shields down as quickly as possible so I can get some permanent damage on his fleet, depending on what he's fielding. So, nonetheless, it's as same as before. The only difference here is I actually decide to field the Dauntless behind the rest of my fleet, because how I said before, when I fought against the 3 protectors, is that I need to get the Retribution to kind of take point, and with the Dauntless not needing to use its torpedoes, it can freely hide behind the rest of my fleet and actually fire on the Tau completely unhindered, although it has shorter range than my Tyrants and Retribution, so it's not going to contribute as much as I like in the back, especially for long range skirmishes, but when it starts getting up close and personal, it's going to be able to fire completely unhindered with that lance. So I feel like this is a better positioning, and quite frankly, it makes it a lot more simpler for me to keep this Dauntless safe. Because at least then, if he doesn't want to go after the Retribution, at the very least, he has to go after the Tyrants, which both have supercharged void shields, if I need to keep the shields up for a little bit longer. At least take the damage a lot better that way. So first torpedoes, they look like a promising hit there. We do give away the fact that that's a stronghold because of the 6 dumbfire torpedoes. So we are fighting a stronghold this time. 5 ships, so I have no idea what else he's feeling. Probably protectors, I guess, judging by the numbers, and maybe a Sauce. Hard to really say. I'm just knowing, again, that I'm not seeing any fighters, so imagine how valuable these torpedoes are going to be against a stronghold. Even though technically it is still a battleship, so it still has 18-point defense, it still is wide. Just like the protectors, just like the Sauces, just like the damn Custodian. It just not have the the reroll for shooting down torpedoes and bombers with its point defense, like the Custodian did. So, without a doubt, this is going to be much more simpler, even with the fighters out. I just have no idea what kind of damage I'm doing otherwise, though, because I don't think I've been hearing any repairs from him just yet. Not any repairs, and he decides to boost on in. 2 protectors. Sauce, Messenger for the reroll. I don't know where its position is, just frankly. I think it's in front, yeah. It's in front, but I think it's close enough to... Well, it is close enough now to give the Sauce at least its extra reroll. As you can see those little flying drones, that little circle that indicates it's getting the reroll. Nonetheless, it's still Sauce. It has no fighters. It has no defenses, although the Protector is actually launching bombers, which could actually help it out in this regard. It is close enough, but nonetheless, he's making it so tempting to shoot at. I'm not gonna lie. Such a tempting torpedo salvo. We get 3 hits there, 3 more hits, and an R2. Ladies and gentlemen, that Sauce is officially ruined. I want to swear, but who knows who could be listening. Nonetheless, that was a simple enough job, wasn't it? The Messenger's also gone, which was his best defense for this onslaught that's about to come there, I think. And we turn our prow to try and mitigate a lot of this damage, but he does launch bombers, which thankfully do not even seem like they did any damage, quite frankly, so that works out well. That works out really well, even though this Sauce wreckage for some reason does not seem to be blocking shots as I'm thinking it would be. Maybe it's because of an elevation thing. Because I know wreckage can stop shots and torpedoes easily enough, it just seems a little misleading here. But again, it's probably due to elevation, because that's it looks a lot bigger than a regular Sauce should. It's a little bit confusing, a little bit misleading, but Tau ship number 2 is officially wrecked. This, if nothing else, any of you Tau players, anyone who wants to play Tau, take this as a lesson. Those defensive fighters are your best friends, especially if you're expecting torpedoes of any sort, because they last indefinitely until they get destroyed anyway, so you can launch them at the start of a match and protect yourself that way. And still be able to launch your bombers for the actual engagement. Just keep in mind, you are going to lose those fighters when you get in close range. Was it about the distance I'm at right now, especially if I start firing torpedoes or have my own fighters, they're going to start skirmishing one another. And now, I remembered why I completely forgot about this match. It's kind of self-explanatory, isn't it? But it's nice to see let the Tau get their place every now and then, I guess, if you had a hard time with Tau. But even then, I still think I could have won this pretty handily, even with the fighters, because of how aggressively he's trying to be. Because again, I have armor-piercing rounds. Even if my torpedoes didn't do work, I'm still murdering this stronghold incredibly fast. It is not even close. I really do need to check on upgrades though, because it's entirely possible he may not even gotten to the adaptive deflectors, which is probably the go-to upgrade you need, at least if you're expecting your ships to be taking the hits. For my own Tau videos, I foregone the adaptive deflector on at least the Sauces because I want them to be hang behind the rest of my fleet. And considering they lack fighters, And as evidence of why, in this video and the first match against Tau, we know why I put them behind the rest of my fleet. Because that way everything else can take the hits and protect them. A dramatically short match. I'm not gonna lie, but I will make it up to everyone for the next one, because we get a rematch against Eldar, the same player, and it's gonna be a good one, I swear to you.